The phrase, "the customer is always right," is the most dangerous lie ever told. Because sometimes the customer is so profoundly, so spectacularly wrong that their complaint transcends business and becomes a work of art. What you are about to witness is not a list of simple mistakes. It is a curated collection of 49 documented cases where a human brain went completely offline, leaving only the mouth to file a formal grievance against the laws of physics, biology, and common sense itself. 1. Some complaints are minor misunderstandings. Others are a full frontal assault on the very concept of reality. At a small ice cream shop, a woman furiously demanded a refund because her scoop of vanilla was, and you might want to sit down for this, too white. She accused the teenage employee of a diabolical plot to water it down, thereby cheating her out of an authentic vanilla experience. The employee, likely contemplating all their life choices, offered a scoop of rich chocolate instead. The woman recoiled as if she'd been offered poison, declaring, "I don't trust brown food." And just like that, a new, incredibly stupid form of racism was born, aimed squarely at the dessert menu. 2. The world of five-star hotels is a magnet for people whose money has completely detached them from common sense. One guest left a furious complaint because the housekeeping staff had failed in their sacred duty to replace the bar of soap in the bathroom every single day. The key detail here: the guest never actually used the soap. Not once. They simply couldn't bear the psychological trauma of seeing the same inert object sitting by the sink for more than 24 hours. "I require the feeling of freshness," they wrote, "even if it is profoundly wasteful." This is the kind of logic that makes environmentalists want to lie down in traffic. The soap, for its part, was just happy to be included. 3. Imagine a man filled with confidence, striding into a sushi restaurant for the very first time. He orders a platter, it arrives, and he immediately erupts like a volcano. The sushi, he bellows, is dangerously raw. And the chef is clearly a villain trying to poison the entire city. The waiter, possessing the zen-like calm of a bomb disposal expert, attempted to explain the ancient and well-known concept of sushi. But the customer had a trump card. He pointed a triumphant finger towards the kitchen and shouted, "Then why do they have stoves back there?" He thought he'd uncovered the Watergate of Japanese cuisine, when all he'd done was announce to the world that his brain was smoother than a polished riverstone. 4. A man ordered a cappuccino and was visibly horrified when it arrived in a standard-issue ceramic cup. His entire reality seemed to crumble before him. "I thought it came in a bottle," he groaned, as if the barista had just insulted his mother. You know, like a soda. He had apparently entered the coffee shop expecting something he could find in a gas station cooler next to the Mountain Dew. As the barista tried to explain the science of hot steamed milk, the man's confusion only deepened. He looked down at the cup, a vessel of pure mystery, and asked, "Well then, how am I supposed to shake it?" At that moment, the barista had to mentally calculate the blast radius of a shaken, superheated milk beverage. 5. A passenger on a multi-million-dollar cruise ship, surrounded by the vast, majestic evidence of our planet's biology, made a startling discovery. After venturing a little taste, they were shocked to learn that the ocean is, in fact, salty. In their official complaint form, they wrote, "I just assumed it was like normal water, but more exciting." They went on to suggest that the cruise line should post warnings for future passengers. This individual was treating the planet's largest body of water like a free sample kiosk at Costco, and was deeply offended that the product wasn't to their liking. What's next? A complaint that the sun is too bright and unpleasantly hot? 6. In a quiet bookstore, a man approached the self-help section not as a customer, but as a victim of false advertising. He flagged down an employee and, with complete sincerity, asked, "So, do these books read themselves to you?" The employee, a true hero of the service industry, gently informed him that the process still required the use of one's own eyes and brain. The man was disgusted by the sheer audacity of it all. The self part was, in his mind, a scam. He stormed out of the store, muttering about being misled, leaving a trail of profound disappointment. He wasn't just unhelped, He felt actively wronged by the entire publishing industry. 7. A woman marched into a department store and slammed a full-length mirror onto the customer service desk. She wasn't returning a defective product, she was reporting a crime. "This mirror is a liar," she announced to the manager. "I'm not this short. Something is seriously wrong with its calibration." She then demanded, with a straight face, that the staff adjust the mirror until it showed her real height. Imagine being that manager, faced with a customer who is demanding you negotiate with the laws of physics on her behalf. Unfortunately for her, the store's return policy did not cover altering the fundamental forces of the universe to match a customer's ego. 8. In a shocking twist that absolutely no one could have predicted, a hot stone massage involved stones that were hot. This revelation was too much for one spa patron. She left a scathing 1-star review because her massage was too hot and too stony. She complained that the stones themselves felt unnaturally solid, as if she was expecting them to be sourced from some special, squishy mineral deposit. Her proposed solution to this ancient therapeutic practice was for the spa to use something softer, like pillows. She was essentially demanding to pay a premium for a masseuse to microwave a few throw pillows and place them gently on her back. 9. Some people have simple needs. Others want a spiritual awakening from their alarm clock. A man refused to buy one from a store because it didn't offer a custom snooze experience. He looked the employee dead in the eye and said, "I want options, like a gentle nudge mode or the apocalypse is nigh setting for Mondays." When the employee calmly explained the function of the standard, one-size-fits-all snooze button, the man scoffed with the disdain of a true connoisseur. "Yeah, but it's boring," he declared, before leaving to continue his quest for a clock that truly understood the delicate art of procrastination. 10. The process of buying a car usually involves a test drive. One man at a dealership, however, had a fundamental disagreement with this concept. He was outraged when the salesperson suggested he actually operate the vehicle. "I just want to sit inside and vibe," he explained, as if this was the most normal request in the world. The salesperson, adapting on the fly, suggested he could at least try out the seats. The customer's eyes lit up. "Yes," he said, "and maybe you can drive me around for a bit while I experience the car's aura." "Sir, you're not trying to buy a car. You're trying to hire a very expensive leather-upholstered Uber for a 10-minute trip around the block." 11. In Texas, they say everything is bigger. Unfortunately, one man's microwave oven did not get the memo. A customer called a pizza chain service line, absolutely furious that his brand-new, extra-large pizza would not physically fit inside his microwave. "This is your fault, not mine," he snapped at the confused call center agent. "Your pizza is too big. You should have made it smaller." The agent had to gently explain that a smaller version of an extra-large pizza already exists. It's called a large, or a medium. This isn't quantum physics, it's basic geometry. 12. A guest at a luxurious Miami hotel who specifically booked an ocean view room had the audacity to threaten a lawsuit because the room had, and I quote, "too much ocean." When the baffled manager asked for clarification, the guest explained that the constant sound of the waves crashing on the shore was annoying and was disrupting their sleep. Their proposed solution? They suggested the hotel turn the ocean off at night. The front desk, which unfortunately did not have a volume remote for the Atlantic, could only offer a complimentary set of earplugs. Mother Nature was unavailable for comment. 13. One of the key features of a lake is that it is a large body of water. This fact seemed to have escaped a guest at a lakeside resort who left a scathing review because the lake was too wet. They elaborated in their complaint. "I thought it would be more like a giant reflective swimming pool, but it had actual waves and it splashed me." Their recommendation to the resort management was to install some sort of barrier to tame the water. Congratulations, you've just invented the world's most boring, disappointing puddle. 14. The transition to electric vehicles has a learning curve. For one man at a gas station, that curve was a vertical wall. He confidently asked the clerk to refill his electric car. When the employee explained they only sold gasoline, the man scoffed in disbelief. He pointed a triumphant finger at the convenience store's refrigerator, filled with energy drinks. "You sell electricity right there in those cans," he declared. "I'm not stupid." He stormed out, presumably to find a vending machine with a plug that matched his car's charging port. 15. An all-you-can-eat buffet is a contract you make with yourself. It's a test of will, a battle against your own gluttony. One man, however, felt the restaurant should have been his personal babysitter. He left a 1-star review with the complaint: "They let me eat too much." He argued with no trace of irony that the establishment should have enforced reasonable limits on his consumption. "I cannot be trusted in this environment," he wrote, "and they showed a complete lack of responsibility for my actions." Sir, that's not a business problem. That's a "you need a therapist" problem. 16. A salad is, by its very nature, a healthy option. But one restaurant patron saw this not as a feature, but as a bug. He refused to pay his bill because his salad was, in his words, insultingly healthy. He fumed at the waiter. "You didn't even try. Where's the deep-fried croutons? The gallon of ranch? The bacon bits?" He then gestured angrily toward a neighboring table's juicy cheeseburger and fries. "That's what real food looks like," he muttered. The waiter had to resist the urge to explain the revolutionary concept of looking at the menu before you order something. 17. The Grand Canyon is one of the 7 natural wonders of the world, a breathtaking testament to millions of years of geological history. For one tourist, however, it was a profound disappointment. "There were no signs warning me that the sun would be bright," their 1-star review began. "I had to squint several times during my visit." Their recommendation was for the National Park Service to install more shade structures, or, and this was their ideal solution, find a way to soften the sun's intensity for tourists. "Yes, we'll get right on installing a dimmer switch on that giant ball of nuclear fusion 93 million miles away." 18. Some gym-goers have very specific needs. One member sent a formal email request to management, asking them to install air conditioning on the treadmills. They took great pains to clarify their request. "Not in the building," the email specified, "but inside the actual treadmills, so the cool breeze moves with me as I run." They argued that this was not a luxury, but a matter of basic physics, and that it was high time for science to work harder to meet modern human needs. Apparently, the simple fan was no longer sufficient for this pioneer of personalized climate control. 19. A man at a massive outdoor music festival was having a terrible time. It wasn't the crowds, the heat, or the price of beer. It was the bass. He hunted down a sound technician and began screaming that the bass from the giant speakers was far too bassy. "I came here for music," he yelled over the thunderous beat, "not to have my internal organs vibrated into a new configuration." He then demanded they turn the bass down by at least 30% and create an alternative gentle listening section for people with more refined musical tastes. "Sir, you went to a rave and are now complaining that it wasn't a chamber music concert." 20. The public library is meant to be a sanctuary of silence and contemplation. For one man, however, this was a critical design flaw. He filed a formal complaint with the head librarian because the library was uncomfortably quiet. He claimed the oppressive silence was making it impossible for him to concentrate on his reading. His proposed solution was for the library to install a sound system and play some light ambient music, or maybe some smooth jazz. He also suggested a designated chatty section for those who find the silence too stressful. "Sir, I believe that's called a coffee shop." 21. The angry email to the car dealership was a masterpiece of misunderstanding technology. "Nowhere in your brochure," it read, "did you warn me that automatic windows meant they'd be controlled by me." This customer genuinely believed they had purchased a sentient vehicle. They expected the car to anticipate their needs, to sense a slight rise in temperature and roll the windows down accordingly. "I expected them to read the atmospheric conditions and act," they ranted. Sir, you bought a Honda Civic, not a psychic butler on wheels. The windows require your input. They don't have performance reviews. 22. A man called a plumber to fix a dripping faucet and then left a 1-star review because the plumber did his job perfectly. The complaint? The silence was deafening. That drip was the soundtrack to my life, he wrote. It was calming, rhythmic. Now my house is just quiet. It's unsettling. He then had the audacity to demand the plumber return and unfix it, or perhaps install a new, gentler leak with a more soothing tone. Sir, you didn't need a tradesman. You needed a white noise machine and a long, reflective walk in the woods. 23. A gym received a formal, written complaint from a member who was having an existential crisis on a treadmill. Why do these machines have no finish line? The email demanded. I ran for 30 minutes and I still didn't get anywhere. The member felt cheated, as if the entire purpose of running was to arrive at a destination. They suggested the gym install a realistic endpoint, perhaps a small ribbon to break through. Their alternative proposal was that the treadmills should move forward a little bit, a suggestion that completely reinvents the concept of running outdoors. 24. A woman at a flower shop was experiencing a moment of profound, life-altering shock. After purchasing a beautiful bouquet, the florist casually mentioned how to care for them to make them last longer. The woman's face fell. Wait, you mean this isn't forever? She gasped, as if she'd just been told the sun was going to burn out tomorrow. When the florist gently explained the biological reality of cut flowers, the woman just shook her head and muttered, "Well, that's just terrible product design." She had just filed a formal complaint against the concept of mortality itself. 25. A customer at a pharmacy was seen staring at a bottle of baby oil with a look of intense moral conflict. They eventually flagged down an employee and whispered, "Excuse me, can you tell me if this is ethically sourced?" The employee, confused, assured them it was a standard product. The customer pressed on, "No, but I mean, how do you get the oil from them?" It slowly dawned on the employee that this person believed baby oil was, in fact, harvested from actual babies. That employee now probably requires therapy every time they walk down the baby aisle. 26. A fast food restaurant was accused of false advertising, not because of portion size, but because of a failure to meet emotional expectations. A customer complained that their large fries weren't emotionally large enough. When pressed, they explained, "Yes, the physical quantity was adequate, but I was expecting to feel a greater sense of joy and abundance." Did it feel large? No. Their recommendation was for the restaurant to rebrand the item as reasonably satisfying fries in order to manage the consumer's emotional journey more accurately. 27. Everyone knows that fast food burgers look nothing like their commercials, but one man at a drive-thru decided to make it his personal crusade. He refused to accept his order because it looked different than on the TV. He demanded the cashier take it back and make it taller, suggesting they use some kind of burger scaffolding to achieve the perfect, gravity-defying stack seen in the ads. Sir, if the people working here for minimum wage had the technology to manipulate physics like that, they wouldn't be handing you a cheeseburger. They'd be building a new space station. 28. A diner in California confidently sent back his plate of French fries, informing the waiter that they weren't French enough. The waiter, completely baffled, asked what that meant. The customer explained, with the air of a world-class Epicurean, that he had expected them to taste like Paris. He couldn't describe that taste, but he knew this wasn't it. The waiter, a genius of improvisation, suggested that perhaps if the man ate them while staring at a tiny Eiffel Tower souvenir he had in his pocket, it might enhance their authenticity. 29. A customer at a pet store demanded a full refund for a hamster they had purchased earlier that day, claiming the product was defective. "It's just not doing enough," they complained to the manager. "I expected it to be more entertaining, but it just kind of sits there." The manager, trying to troubleshoot the issue, asked how long they'd had the hamster and if it had settled into its new cage. "Oh," the customer replied, "I haven't taken it out of the cardboard box yet." He was judging the hamster's entire life performance before it had even been unboxed. 30. A review for a popular ski resort contained a complaint that is a true monument to human obliviousness. There was far too much snow. I slipped multiple times. This guest, who had voluntarily traveled to a mountain in winter specifically for a snow-based activity, was furious that the environment was snowy. They went on to suggest that the resort should install heated outdoor walkways on all the slopes, because the mountain should really be more accommodating. It's like buying a ticket for a submarine and then complaining that your clothes got wet. 31. In a high-end steakhouse, a man informed his waiter that he wanted his T-bone steak to be as fresh as possible. The waiter assured him all their cuts were fresh. "No, you don't understand," the man clarified, leaning in conspiratorially. "I want to meet the cow first." He then seriously proposed that they bring the living animal out to his table on a leash so he could personally approve of the cut before the deed was done. The waiter had to gently explain that this was a restaurant, not a bizarre pre-dinner agricultural auction. 32. A fast food chain once received a certified letter from a man threatening a lawsuit. His complaint wasn't that the food was bad, but that it was so delicious it should be classified as an illegal substance. In his letter, he claimed, "I lost all self-control and ate 2 entire burgers. This is a clear violation of my consumer rights to be protected from my own impulses." He was essentially suing the company for making a product that was too good. Sir, the only crime committed here was against your own cardiovascular system. 33. A man walked into a vegan restaurant, ordered the vegan burger, and then flew into a rage when it arrived. His complaint? It didn't contain any beef. When the waiter calmly pointed out that the word vegan specifically means no animal products, the man slammed his menu on the table and yelled, "So what, you people just make up words now?" He grudgingly ordered a salad instead, but later complained to the manager that it contained an alarming and excessive amount of vegetables. 34. The term continental breakfast usually conjures images of toast, cereal, and maybe a sad-looking piece of fruit. One woman at a budget hotel, however, had a very different interpretation. She demanded to know why the free breakfast buffet didn't include steak and lobster. When the hotel manager explained that this was a standard continental breakfast, she scoffed with pure disgust and muttered just loud enough for everyone to hear, "Ugh, cheap Europeans." "Ma'am, for what you paid for this room, you are lucky the coffee is brewed with actual water." 35. The concept of less is more is a complete mystery to some people. At a coffee shop, a woman demanded a refund, holding up her tiny cup of espresso like it was evidence in a major fraud case. Her complaint? It was too small to be real coffee. The barista, a seasoned veteran of caffeine-fueled insanity, tried to explain the science of concentration. This only made things worse. The woman's eyes went wide with a horrified realization. "So you're telling me," she gasped, "that this is just coffee juice?" And in that moment, she had stumbled upon the absolute truth, completely by accident, while being spectacularly wrong about everything. 36. In a world obsessed with screen protectors and shock-absorbent cases, one man stands alone, a true warrior of chaos. He refused to buy a phone case because, in his expert opinion, it felt too safe. He explained to the bewildered employee, "I want my phone to experience some risk. Otherwise, how will I ever truly appreciate it when it's not broken?" The employee, just trying to make it to lunch, asked if he wanted to drop his new phone. The man nodded with the solemn gravity of a philosopher. "It's just the circle of life," he whispered. This man wasn't a customer. He was a danger-seeking prophet, and his phone was destined for martyrdom. 37. The lions at one particular zoo were, according to a formal complaint, failing at their primary job, being entertaining. A woman was so disappointed by their lack of theatricality that she suggested the staff set up some surprises for them. Her top idea was hiring an actor dressed as a gazelle to run around for excitement, a plan that is equal parts creative and psychopathic. When informed that this would be a deeply unethical and likely final performance for the actor, she sighed. Well, at least give them a Netflix account. Presumably so they could binge-watch nature documentaries and feel bad about their own lack of ambition. 38. A grocery store shopper lodged a formal complaint that the bananas were, and there's no easy way to say this, too banana-y. They were genuinely upset. I expected a much more neutral taste, they explained to the produce manager. Something less fruity. The manager, navigating this uncharted territory of produce criticism, asked what kind of bananas they were used to eating. The shopper frowned, thought for a moment, and muttered, "I don't know. The ones from the cartoons?" They were looking for a product that only exists in a 2D animated world, and were shocked that reality couldn't deliver. 39. A woman stood in a grocery store aisle, staring at a jar of honey with the kind of deep suspicion usually reserved for a ticking bomb. She informed a nearby employee that she had serious concerns that the product might contain bee-related ingredients. "I don't eat insect products," she explained with an authoritative glare. The employee gently pointed out that honey is, in its entirety, made by bees. The woman was horrified. "Wait," she gasped, "so the bee on the label isn't just a marketing gimmick?" She truly believed it was a cute mascot, like a leprechaun on a cereal box, not the actual factory worker. 40. A couple on a dream vacation to a tropical rainforest was having a terrible time. The problem wasn't the insects or the heat. It was the fundamental nature of the ecosystem itself. They were furious to discover that the rainforest was humid. "We expected something more breathable," they wrote in a scathing online review. "This level of moisture in the air feels aggressive." Their helpful suggestion to the local government was to install a series of large-scale dehumidifiers in key tourist locations to create a more visitor-friendly jungle experience. 41. "This roller coaster was simply too fast," complained a man after riding the park's most extreme attraction for the second time in a row. He marched to guest services and demanded a refund because the ride should have had breaks for the scary parts. His ultimate suggestion, delivered with complete seriousness, was that the ride needed a scenic mode button that passengers could press to temporarily slow the coaster down. He wanted to be able to appreciate the view without the unnecessary G-forces. "Sir, you are looking for a Ferris wheel, not a ride called the Vortex of Terror." 42. At a rustic farm stand, a woman from the city was having her entire worldview shattered. After picking up a carton of fresh eggs, she was shocked to learn from the farmer that they actually come from the back end of a chicken. "I thought they just grew in the cartons," she whispered in genuine horror. "You know, on a tree or something." The farmer, a man who had seen it all, resisted the urge to explain the birds and the bees and simply handed her the carton. "Well, ma'am," he said with a straight face, "these ones were just harvested this morning." 43. The energy of a live concert is supposed to come from its raw, unpolished performance. But for one woman, this was a bug, not a feature. She complained loudly that the live music didn't sound exactly like the studio version. She ranted to anyone who would listen. "Why even bother performing if you're just going to change the guitar solo?" She later suggested that for a more accurate experience, artists should just play their album over the speakers while lip-syncing. What she was describing, of course, wasn't a concert. It was just her Spotify playlist with more expensive tickets. 44. A tourist in New Orleans, a city renowned for its bold and flavorful cuisine, left a one-star review after trying gumbo for the first time. His chief complaints were that it was too spicy and that it tasted overwhelmingly like the South. He wasn't wrong, but he presented these facts as if they were design flaws. His recommendation to the chef was to create a version without all the flavor. The chef had to gently inform him that what he was asking for was not a different style of gumbo. It was a bowl of hot, unseasoned broth. 45. A woman on a guided wildlife tour was outraged when the wildlife failed to adhere to the schedule. After an hour of seeing nothing but trees, she confronted the tour guide. I was promised bears on the brochure, she snapped. So, where are they? The guide tried to explain that wild animals are, by definition, not on the payroll and tend to move on their own schedule. The woman scoffed. Then what's the point of this tour? She demanded. Ma'am, if you require guaranteed animal sightings on a strict timetable, may I suggest a zoo or perhaps a toy store? 46. The Grand Canyon is a breathtaking monument to millions of years of natural erosion. For one tourist, it was a breathtaking monument to poor civil engineering. They were furious that there were no escalators to the bottom. You seriously expect people to just walk? They raged at a park ranger. They went on to propose a modern gondola system, or at least some moving sidewalks, to make the natural wonder more convenient. This person didn't want to experience nature. They wanted to experience it from the comfort of a shopping mall. 47. A man tried to return a brand new television because, in his words, it only showed what was currently on. He was genuinely outraged that he had to wait for good shows to come on, instead of being able to select any movie or program ever made at any time. When the store employee patiently suggested streaming services, the man sighed with the weariness of a deeply put-upon individual. Oh, so now I have to do work just to enjoy my TV. Sir, the burden of choice is a heavy one, but most of us manage. 48. A customer returned an air mattress to a big box store, complaining that it had failed on the very first night. Their specific issue. It completely deflated the moment I lay on it. The employee at the returns desk, following protocol, asked if they had inflated it with a pump before using it. The customer looked at them as if they were an idiot. Obviously not, they scoffed. I assumed it would recognize when I needed support and just do its job automatically. This person expected to be gently levitated by a psychic, self-aware bag of plastic. 49. A woman at a seafood restaurant was having a crisis mid-meal. After taking a bite of her fish fillet, a horrified look crossed her face. She called the waiter over and whispered, "You mean this was an actual swimming thing?" The waiter, trying to be gentle, confirmed that all seafood does in fact come from the sea. The woman stared at her plate with a look of profound betrayal. "I just thought it was called fish for branding," she said. Like, chicken of the sea. She thought she'd been eating a cleverly named sea vegetable her entire life. And there you have it. 49 reasons why every service industry worker deserves a medal and a stiff drink. But we know this list isn't complete, because you've seen things. Now it's your turn. Your mission is to go to the comments and give us .50. Tell us the single most baffling, logic-defying customer complaint you have ever personally witnessed. The best story gets the ultimate prize, the satisfaction of knowing you've helped document the decline of civilization.